Hi everyone. So I'm wearing my hat today because my hair looks like extra crazy today. Like my hair always looks a little crazy unless I pay someone to take care of it, but I don't know what was going on. It's like flying all over the place. Must have something to do with winter in New Hampshire. So I'm wearing my chapeau, as my grandfather would call it. But I wanted to film this video about 20 ways to be happier in person in 2020 according to therapists. This is an article I found on Huffington Post. I'm normally not like the biggest fan of Huffington Post because I think they're a little bit crazy. No offense to people who read the Huffington Post. There's sometimes some good stuff on here too, and I think that it's worth, going through this article, talking about the 20 things, getting some tips. I'll give you my additional commentary. There's a lot I like in this article. There's a couple things I take issue with, and there's a couple things that I wish they had put on the list that we will talk about as we make our way through it. So let's start with number 1. Conquer one anxiety. Single out a goal of selecting an anxiety that is holding you back and thoroughly committing yourself to obliterating that fear. Hold nothing back in your assault. Treat that fear as though it is enemy number 1. Perhaps you've been worried about signing up for a half marathon. Maybe you're afraid to reach out to book agents because you don't want to be rejected. Perhaps you're fearful of a difficult conversation with a toxic friend or family member and you're putting it off. Set a goal, pick a reward you'll get when you complete it, and then get to it. The thing to keep in mind that very often happiness is found just on the other side of the doorway, guarded by our anxieties. And the new year is a great time to start kicking down some doors. I don't have any problem with selecting a big goal, maybe something you've been putting off or wanting to do for years and going for it and just saying, you know what, maybe I'll achieve it, maybe I won't, but I'm going to really try, I'm going to put my heart into it and we'll just see what happens. That I have no issue with. I think that's a really good tip. My issue with this is I don't understand why they labeled it as an anxiety. Because people put things off for all sorts of reasons, time, money, maybe they're afraid they won't be successful, but being afraid you won't be successful is not really the same thing as having anxiety about it. And I think that anytime you're positioning something as an anxiety, you're only setting yourself up for failure in going after it. Because listen, human beings are pretty simple in some ways. We're incredibly complex human beings. We're all unique snowflakes and all that, but we're also incredibly simple in some ways. Here's one of the ways that we're very simple. When we think something is bad, we run away from it so that we don't get hurt. When we think something is good, we run towards it because we think it's going to make us feel better. In calling this an anxiety, you're positioning it as bad. That doesn't help you run towards it. So this is this is a mind game right here. This is a story you're telling. This is how you're positioning something in your head. What if instead of calling it anxiety, you said, this is a goal that I have, or this is a challenge I want to overcome. I'm going to feel really great when I overcome that challenge. That is a much better way to position it. So I say, I love the idea of picking out a big thing to do, but don't call it an anxiety. Don't call it a fear. Call it a goal, call it a challenge, call it an experience, whatever that might be, and then just go for it. And you'll probably have much better momentum, especially at the very beginning when you first get started, if you position it as a positive thing rather than as a negative thing that you're trying to overcome. All right. Number 2, lock down a sleep schedule that works for you. Getting a consistent night's sleep is vital. Chronic sleep deprivation is a huge problem, especially for those who work late or extremely busy. It's not just the 40-hour marathons without sleep, which can be detrimental to your psychological health. Who the hell is going 40 hours without sleep on a regular basis? That's insane. If you're going 40 hours without sleep on a regular basis, you have one thing to do. Fix that thing and then worry about everything else later. But simply losing an hour or two on a regular basis can have a significant impact on your mind and well-being. Start with small steps by giving yourself a sensible and realistic bedtime. Try to go to bed half an hour before your usual bedtime and stick to it. Evaluate this new habit every day by having a journal and writing down your progress. All right, I have no issue with the tip. I think actually this is a tip I've actually taken advantage of recently. I didn't do it from reading the article, but I did it because I needed to. I started going to bed hour and a half before I had usually gone to bed. I'll tell you what, man, It has made such a difference for me in terms of how rested I feel, how much energy I have the next day, being able to get up in the morning and go to the gym, something we're going to talk about later in this article. The way I do it too is I go to bed early and I meditate before I go to sleep. We're going to talk about meditation in a little bit as well, but meditating before sleep for me has been really great. Because my resistance is down after I've had a long, busy day, but also I can kind of drift right into sleep afterwards, and it just feels like a natural progression for me. So that's worked really well. I think this is great. The only issue I have with this particular tip is that, listen, like, if you're not getting enough sleep, what is the likelihood that you have enough time in your day to journal about your sleeping habits? I mean, I don't think the idea of journaling is bad to begin with, but when you're talking about journaling when you don't have enough time to sleep or haven't prioritized time for sleep, I just don't think it's very realistic to keep a journal every day about your sleep habits. So I also think that you can get into a negative headspace if you're doing the sleep thing, but then you're not journaling about it. You're like, oh my God, I forgot to journal about it. I gotta go back and do it. It can get you into a negative headspace with the whole exercise. So I say ditch the journal. If you need more sleep, just make it a priority to get more sleep, and you're going to notice that you feel better. Trust me, you will notice the difference if you're getting the right amount of sleep. All right. Number 3, find one small self-care activity that works for you and prioritize it. The most impactful mental health goal a person can set is to commit to balanced workload and responsibilities alongside activities that bring them a sense of well-being and enjoyment. Yep, I'm on board. When there is an imbalance in what we're giving out to the world and what we're taking for ourselves, that's when our psychological resources get depleted. This is a really good line. I'm going to read this one again. When there is an imbalance in what we're giving out to the world and what we're taking for ourselves, that's when our psychological resources get depleted. And that's true of everything. That's not just true of having a self-care activity. That's true. Oh my God, people do this all the time at work, where you give and give and give and give and give, and your coworkers or your colleagues or your boss or whoever doesn't seem to be reciprocating that giving. And when that happens, it's right for your head's gonna explode at some point if you keep that up. So make sure, I think this is a good tip in general, make sure you're receiving just as much from people or situations or organizations or whatever as you're giving out. And self-care activities can be a really important part of this. I absolutely think, especially in the new year, this is the time to start thinking about your work-life balance. I actually posted a video on here yesterday, I think, about simple strategies you can use to achieve better work-life balance. So, there are all sorts of different things that you can do to really just do things just for yourself. You don't always have to be giving stuff to other people, your colleagues, your family, your friends, what have you. Make sure you have things that are just for you, and give yourself that gift, and it's really great. They talk about mindfulness meditation, which we're going to talk about later in the article, so we won't go into that too much now. Spend 10 minutes a day outside. This year, resolve to spend less time inside and more time outdoors in natural settings. Research in multiple countries shows that spending time in green spaces can lift your mood and relieve anxiety in as little as 10 minutes. Now, obviously, this person does not live in New Hampshire, where I live, where it is currently January 2nd and cold and snowy and miserable outside. So not everyone has the option of going outside. If you do, I think it's really great. Take advantage of your environment. I think it's always great in the middle of the day, especially at work, to go for a walk, take a break, make sure you eat your lunch outside, just enjoy the place that you're existing in. But there is a trick, actually, and I learned this from another coach a couple years ago. She used this with one of her clients, this client was dealing with a lot of stress in the office. And, in working with the coach, they decided that her favorite place, the place that brought her the most peace and calm and joy, was being at the beach. And so instead of going to the beach every day, what she did was she brought the beach into her office, and she hung up pictures of the beach, and she made it her screensaver on her computer, and she played, sounds of waves crashing in the background, and those soothing ocean noises like on a sound machine. And she even, and this is my favorite one, she even brought in a whole bunch of sand and put it in her desk drawer. And so anytime she was feeling stressed out, she just reached into her desk drawer and put her hands in the sand and listened to her ocean noises and look at the pictures, and it was like being at the beach for her. And this actually did, end result was it had a really good effect on her stress level. It brought her stress level down, made her more calm. So if you can't be outside like me and stuck indoors right now, bring the outside into you. You can bring all sorts of stuff into your office that will help give you that same sense of peace and well-being and calm. Number 5, regularly practice a simple mindfulness exercise. Aha, I'm already on board with this. Many of us spend our days worrying about the future and ruminating about the past, thus missing a great deal of what's happening in the here and now. Making an effort to be more present increases a sense of well-being, promotes vitality, heightens your awareness, helps train our attention, improves the quality of our work, and enhances interpersonal relationships. Now, she doesn't really explain, I think it's a she doesn't really explain in this section, though, what being present really means. She does offer an exercise, and I'm gonna, let's go over that one real quick. Each day, spend 5 minutes noticing your surroundings and how you feel. Do this by naming 5 things you see, 4 things you can physically feel, 3 different sounds you hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It's okay if you point out something far away from you. Then take a second to label how you're feeling. Like, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm bored, I'm excited. This is known as a grounding exercise. That's not my favorite grounding exercise to do, if I'm honest. I also don't think you should ever say negative things about yourself out loud if you can help it, unless you were like in your therapist's office or your coach's office or your best friend's house or something like that with a big bottle of wine would be even better. But generally speaking at work, don't talk negatively about yourself. Don't say, I'm frustrated, I'm bored, I'm angry, I'm agitated, I'm annoyed, I'm all these things, because you're just making something real that may not serve you in the situation you're in. I'm speaking specifically about being at work. At this point, it never serves you to have those negative emotions at work. You deal with them outside of work. We're going to talk about this a little later in the article. That's fine, but don't vocalize that. That just makes it more real and makes it more of a problem. An exercise I really like, though, grounding exercise I really like, I just learned this one. My clients are so great sometimes. I learn so much from them. And I had this one client who a couple weeks ago taught me what he does when he feels like he's worrying about something from the past or worrying about what might happen in the future. He does this really simple exercise where he claps, says his name, and then, where are you? And so if I was doing this for myself, I would do, Carlin, where are you? And you got to do it with that tone of voice, like trying to wake something up, trying to disrupt something. Try it out, because you really do feel different. You're like, oh my God, you're jolted into the present moment when you do it. I thought it was a really great exercise. Number 6, say nice things about yourself. This kind of goes along with what I was just saying about not vocalizing negative things, right? Instead of focusing on the negative, flip the dialogue to only positive outcomes. For example, instead of saying, if I get that job, switch to when I get that job. These subtle changes in using body language helps to change your mindset to a glass half full instead of glass half empty. And it says, this is cheesy, but worth a shot. Like, okay, you can increase your positive thoughts by stating one thing you like about yourself in the mirror each morning. Cheesy, but worth a thought. Why would you write this as cheesy in an article about things to do when you're happy? Like, in literally, I'm sorry, I'm going to rag on Huffington Post for a second. In literally the item where you're saying, say nice things about yourself, you can say nice things in the mirror, but it's really cheesy and I mean, come on, man. Listen, saying nice things about yourself is one of the hardest things that people do. It is incredibly hard to do. I actually do this exercise in one of my workshops where I have people volunteer. I don't make anyone do it, but I have them get up in front of the group and talk about themselves like they are their own biggest fan. Talk about all the amazing things that they're really, really proud of that they've done and accomplished and are working on and all that. I'll tell you what, when I introduce this exercise to the room, people look at me like I've just asked them to murder a puppy in cold blood. Like, they do not want to do this. This is like the scariest thing they've ever done. I actually did a workshop one time where we did this exercise and people, like, here's what happens. One brave person always raises their hand and they're so timid and they get up and do it, and then everyone claps for them and everyone starts feeling good, and the next person does it, we clap, everyone feels good, and it feels really great to do this exercise once the ball has been rolling. But I had this one workshop one time where we did the exercise, so many people did it, everyone felt good. About an hour later in the workshop, this guy who'd been looking at me skeptically the whole time, his arms crossed like this, he raises his hand and says, well, that exercise you did where people said nice things about themselves, that's easy. Anyone can do that. And I was like, really? Want to take the stage and do it? And he refused to do it. Why? Because it's incredibly hard. So no, Huffington Post, this exercise is not cheesy. This exercise is incredibly powerful. And you don't need to be in a workshop by me or like someone else who does this sort of stuff to do it. Just do it in your bedroom. Like, you can wait till everyone's out of the house. Shut the door, draw the shades, lock everything to make sure no one's going to disrupt you, and just talk into your mirror about why you're your own biggest fan, or say nice things about yourself, and allow yourself to really kind of process and integrate that information, because we're taught from the time we're little kids to criticize ourselves for so many reasons. We're never taught to say nice things about ourselves. So this really is something that you have to learn how to do, and it is not at all cheesy. It's incredibly powerful. All right, number 7, give up or cut back on one unhealthy habit. We know when things are bad for us, which can cause us stress. You can curb them by reducing them or giving them up entirely. Think activities like high alcohol consumption or excessive caffeine consumption. Getting those things in check will help manage stress at all levels. But you know what it is? It's not necessarily that the act itself is bad for you. It's that you think it's bad for you. Listen, I drink an absurd amount of coffee every day. I'm never giving this up. I love coffee. I genuinely love coffee. You will take my highly caffeinated coffee out of my cold, dead hands. I'm never giving that up. It doesn't add any stress to my life. It adds joy to my life. And no, I don't believe it's dangerous for me. I think there are a lot worse things I could be doing. I'm not a doll in a china shop or whatever. It all depends on how you perceive these things. I was out. This is actually, well, you know what it is? It's actually funny because there's actually research where you have like identical twins. They have all the same DNA. They look exactly alike. They have all the same DNA. Maybe sometimes I actually know one study where they actually worked in the same place. They had all similar habits. One guy got cancer, the other didn't, because of what was going on at where they worked. One guy got cancer, the other didn't. Why? Was it perhaps that the first guy believed that what they were doing was bad and was going to cause him harm and the other one didn't? I don't know, but I think there's something to it. I was out on a pub crawl with a guy I know a couple weeks ago, and he was smoking up a storm, and I was ragging on people who do that because I hate the smell of it. I absolutely hate it. And I was like, you're killing yourself doing that. What are you doing? He's like, it's only harmful if I think it is. And, there's some truth to it, man. If you don't think something's going to hurt you, then don't worry about it. Or just get yourself to a place where if you have habits you really enjoy, and they just bring joy to your life, don't worry about it, man. Now, if you have legitimate things you need to give up and you know that, hey, I guess so. But if it's going to make you miserable in the process, you only live once, and I don't necessarily think we should be depriving ourselves like that. All right, find a physical activity you love. Exercise plays a large role in mental health. While studies are ongoing, a review of articles found the consistent beneficial effects of exercise on depressive symptoms. Wow, I can't speak right now. Let me do that one again. While studies are ongoing, a review article found consistent beneficial effects of exercise on depressive symptoms across multiple studies. They suggest 30 minutes a day. This amount has been shown to produce the most benefit for improving mood and reducing stress levels. Yeah, I'm totally on board with this one. I think my work-life balance video, actually, I talked about going to Orange Theory and how Orange Theory is a really consistent part of my day. Orange Theory is like a workout program. It's a gym you can join. They do all sorts of stuff. I won't get into the details, but I love it. I really do. It's the only workout program I've ever been able to stick with. I do it almost every day in the morning. I've had a lot of benefit from it. And I like that they put this one in here too, because I don't know, I haven't seen it as much in the last 6 months, but there was a good period for about a year. I want to say like 2018-ish. I saw a lot of this going on online where If people were actively posting on social media about how they don't want to hear that exercise works on depression, and they just don't want to hear about people's exercise. Or I would see people posting like their workouts on Facebook or something that they were really proud of, and people would go, I don't want to hear about your workout, and I don't want you to tell me about how it can help me with my depression. I was like, oh my God. Like, it really, exercise can help you. And I don't want to diminish depression. Listen, I've struggled with depression. So many people have. It's not an easy thing to do. But, I think that if exercise is one of those things that has been shown over and over and over again to help, why wouldn't you take advantage of it? There are exercises that every single person of every single ability can do. It could be as simple as going for a walk. It could be as simple as, maybe lifting weights with your upper body, whatever it happens to be. You can find exercise that's going to help you. And it makes you feel powerful. One of the reasons I like working out in the morning is like I've accomplished something really hard before I even get to work. If I can accomplish something really hard before I even get to work, that bodes well for the rest of my day. Just sets me up for success. So I'm a big fan of this. I think everyone should do it. All right. Number 9, try meditation. Haven't jumped on the bandwagon yet? Now is as good a time as ever. A mindfulness meditation practice will have tremendous positive effect long term. I recommend allocating at least 30 minutes a day, which can be divided into morning and night. Listen, I'm a big fan of meditation. I meditate every single day. I recommend meditation for everyone. I think it is a game-changing practice. I strongly disagree. If you have never meditated before, I strongly disagree with allocating at least 30 minutes a day at the beginning. Because meditation is hard. Man, it's so hard to conquer your body, especially when you first start meditating. And so many people are convinced that they can't do it. If you ask them to do it for 30 minutes or even 15 minutes, if you're cutting it into 2 chunks, you're not setting yourself up well for success, because even that 15-30 minutes is really difficult. I remember when I first started meditating, I actually did do 30 minutes a day for the first month, and it got a lot easier after the first month, but it was a struggle, and I wanted to give up, and I don't know how I persevered through it, because it was very, very difficult. But you can meditate, you can get benefits from meditation. 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. Just start with 5 minutes. And listen, you will reach a point, if you're very consistent about meditation, you will reach a point where it clicks and you understand the benefits and you understand why it's a good thing. And for me, it was a very inner thing. I wish I could provide you with a more descriptive thing other than you'll just know. But it's kind of like, I guess maybe it's kind of like falling in love. Like, you just know when you're in love. You don't have any evidence of the fact that you're in love, but you know that it's true. And the same is probably true with meditation. Let's see what else they say. Research has shown that regular practice of meditation can actually improve your health because it lowers the negative effects of high cortisol, but also high cholesterol and high blood pressure. Other benefits of regular meditation include mental clarity, focus, improvement in memory, and overall mental performance. So I'm completely on board with this. And listen, the last thing I want to say about meditation, I've been meditating for years. Almost every day. I have done crazy meditations. I've gone to retreats where I get up at like 4 a.m. to meditate because that's when the melatonin levels in your brain are the highest, or we stay up all night and meditate. I've meditated for 7-hour stretches at a time. Insane. Meditation is still hard for me. And I want you to hear this if you haven't done meditation, or you're scared to try it, or you don't think you can do it. Meditation still has points where it's difficult for me, where I don't want to do it, where I'm fighting it, where I feel like I can't stop my thoughts. The reason I'm telling you this is I want you to know that if you're struggling with it, it's normal. It is absolutely normal, especially at the beginning. And if you have to take control, you have to be determined. You have to say, I am learning how to do this. I know this is going to be hard, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to overcome that obstacle. I think that, I have so many people to dismiss the idea of meditation entirely. I can't do it. Anyone can meditate. You just have to force yourself to do it and be disciplined. And if you start with just 5 minutes a day, you can just gradually build up. There are so many great programs out there to help you. I cannot recommend meditation more highly. Number 10, stop negative thoughts in their tracks. Our thoughts are not always reality, and we need to get into the routine of challenging them and changing our relationships with our thoughts. Yes, I definitely agree with this. You can do this by asking yourself a simple question when you're beating yourself up. Next time you have a negative thought, ask yourself, does this completely and accurately capture what's going on? I think it's a horrible question. I really do, for a lot of reasons. I mean, maybe because I think a better question is, how can what's going on serve me? So I would rather find a way to take something that I perceive as negative and turn it into a positive, rather than have a philosophical conversation with myself about, am I accurately assessing this situation? That just doesn't make sense to me, because reality is subjective. It's filtered through all this stuff in our brain. It's very subjective, based on our emotions, based on how we're feeling. I just don't think that that's like, am I accurately capturing what's going on? It's not really the best way to formulate it. But if something bad is going on and you say to yourself, I'm determined not to see this as something bad. I'm determined to see this as something that serves me, or something that helps me, or something that could be really beneficial to me. I think that's a much better way to go about it. I'll give you an example when it comes to work. So getting fired for a lot of people is the worst thing that can possibly happen to them. Their life is over. They're embarrassed. It's incredibly traumatic for so many people to go through. But I've talked to so many clients who I've coached through getting fired, or after they've gotten fired, where 6 months later, if they're looking back on the situation in hindsight, they're like, oh my God, that was like the best thing that ever happened to me. I actually had this one client who, he got fired, and we kind of knew it was coming. He was mentally prepared for it. I really thought it was going to hurt him. I really did. I was very worried about what he was going to do. But you know what? He viewed it as a good thing. He said, you know what? This is a chance for me to go get a job that I love, at a place that's going to invest in me and support me, that's more in line with what I want to do. It was within a couple of weeks. He had a new job. He was making more money. He was feeling so much better about it. It was so much more in up his alley and what he wanted to do. It happened like that. And it was because he had a positive thought process about it. He didn't say getting fired is the worst thing that ever happened to me. He said, this is an opportunity and I'm going to take advantage of it. And it sent him on a beautiful career trajectory. It was really great. Okay, let's move on. Invest in a quality relationship. If you want a good long-term mental health and physical health, you need to see if you have meaningful, loving relationships. Who knows you better than anyone, and who do you know better than anyone? Have you invested in that relationship by staying in touch and talking on the phone, not just texting? And when was the last time you got together? If we're not careful, we end up giving our best in places that aren't good for our mental health. Isn't that true? If we're not careful, we end up giving our best in places that aren't good for our mental health. Study after study finds that loving, meaningful relationships are good for our mental and physical health. I agree with this one generally. I want to be careful and say that I don't necessarily think that this means that you have to have like a marriage or something like that. I don't think that this is what this is talking about. I think, I have a very good friend that I've known since college that it's one of those friendships where we never we can go long periods of time without talking to each other, but when we reconnect, it's like the same. We just really enjoy being around one another, and I didn't see her for a really, really long time. Recently reconnected. We've gone on some trips. I've been down to her house, and it's been super fun actually, and it has added a lot to my experience. So I definitely recommend keeping up with those friendships that mean a lot to you. But I wouldn't say that a relationship necessarily, sometimes we perceive that it's got to be like a romantic relationship or a marriage or all those things. It doesn't have to be. You probably have so many people in your life, because I bring that up because a lot of people, especially when they're, well, let's be honest, women, especially when they're kind of getting into their 30s, they start to stress out about getting married. Don't stress out about it. The more you stress out about it, the more you're just setting yourself up for failure. But just look for those relationships that are really fulfilling, where it's just easy peasy. I think it's a really good one. Okay, read self-development and help books. No. Read self-development books. There's no help in there. Maybe I just inserted the help in there for myself. Read at least one book on someone you admire and how they dealt with the struggles in their life. Yeah, I really agree with this actually. If we can read books that show people that are just ordinary people overcoming things and achieving greatness, that can be really aspirational. There are lots of ways people learn about your mental health, from therapy to self-help to the lives of other people. Pick up as many tips and find lots of inspiration in these motivational books, whether they're memoirs or expert-backed advice. Need a specific suggestion? They're giving some suggestions there. Hey, listen, I'm gonna give a suggestion of my own. You can get my book, Zen Your Work. It's all about mindfulness techniques at work. Blatant plug. But, there's lots of great books out there. I also recommend Audible. Like, audiobooks are really fantastic. You can even knock off a couple birds with this. Like, listen to an audiobook at the gym, and it's fantastic. So Audible is such a great selection. And those books, they're really well done and really kind of like sometimes entertaining, and even beyond the content, they're just very well produced now. 13, cut back on social media use. Yes, 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 yes. So often we view other people's highlight reels on social media. That can lead to feeling inadequate. External validation is temporary. It's difficult to maintain the pressure to chase likes. Build your self-esteem from something that's important to you by being of service to others. I absolutely agree with this tip. I don't necessarily agree with it for this reason. I guess I do. Like, I don't think we should be looking for validation for anything from other people, and especially not from influencers on social media. Guys, like, it's all fake, man. Like, all that stuff is staged. It's so fake. It's not real life. If you're looking for validation from influencers on Instagram, like, that is the wrong place to look. But the reason I say this is because people are insane on social media. People are insane. Twitter is insane. Listen, I've been on Twitter since Twitter started, and there was a time when Twitter was great, and I still think Twitter has a lot of value, but there's so much negativity. People do not bring their best selves to social media. That's true on Facebook, that's true on Instagram. I've even seen it on LinkedIn lately. LinkedIn is professional, so it's a little bit less prone to crazy, I think. But man, like, don't take anything seriously that anyone says on social media. If it's negative, if it makes you feel bad, of course I want you to take me seriously, but like, whatever. Like, if it makes you feel bad, negative, if it makes you feel inferior, if it makes you feel any sort of negative way, just kick it to the curb, man. I'm gonna add another one to this. Stop watching the news. Stop watching the news. And a lot of people get their news from social media, so I think this is kind of, it covers in the same space. Like, the news is horrible. The news makes all their money from basically people experiencing outrage and clicking on their thing or watching their thing. That's how they get all their advertisers, man, is by outraging people into watching their content. It's awful. I used to do this challenge where I would challenge people to stop watching the news for 30 days. Game changing. Game changing if you stop watching the news for 30 days. No, you really don't need to watch the news. You will survive. You'll actually get more news than you think you will just by word of mouth. But you won't get like the outrage nonsense that comes with it. And never read the comments. Never read the comments, for real. All right, set better boundaries. The one thing, this one is more important than people realize. They have way more control than they realize. If you don't want to go, then don't go. Totally agree with this. I think this goes along with work-life balance. Make sure you know how you want to use your time, and then be super, super disciplined in using it that way. 100% agree. 15, make a progress list each week. Okay? Well, I'm going to reserve judgment on this one. Expecting perfection guarantees you'll feel like a failure at least part of the time, and can lead to serious anxiety. Learn the art of progress, not perfection. All right, I'm coming on board with this. We're all setting ourselves up for failure from the get-go when we expect to have it all perfectly balanced. In other words, we will always feel like we're failing. So what this is about is it's not so much about making a list. You don't necessarily have to make a list to do this one. This is about enjoying the process of whatever you're doing without worrying so much about the end result. That's what this is. And this actually happens a lot at work is we get so set on a goal and we have to do this thing. We have to hit this number. We have to meet this goal. We have to meet this level, whatever it happens to be, that the process of getting there just really stresses us out because we're focused on this one, like it's hit or miss. I have to do this. It also happens when we have all these projects pile up and we're like, I have to get all this stuff done. I have to get all this stuff done. It just has to be done. It has to be completed. All this stuff. We start to get really stressed out in the process of doing those things. What if instead you just said, you know what, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to find a way to love every second of what I'm doing, and the outcome is going to take care of itself. And you do that because you trust that if you show up, you do the right thing, you enjoy what you're doing, you bring a good attitude to it, you're going to be able to make that progress, you're going to be able to meet those goals. And sometimes you might even surprise yourself and things that you never expect to come out of it might come out. So enjoy the process, not necessarily worrying about the end result. It's that worry about the end result that makes the process so difficult sometimes. Number 16, allow yourself to be sad. That is, so in order to feel truly happy, we need to stop chasing happiness. That can lead to more feelings of inner peace, calm, which of course can lead to an improved mood. I guess I agree with this to a certain extent. I certainly don't think you should prevent yourself from feeling sad. I mean, I think we need to, and crying can actually be a great thing to do when you feel sad, because when you cry, you're releasing negative emotions. But I don't necessarily, maybe it's the way this one is written that really bothers me, because the thing of it is, in order to feel truly happy, you just need to make the decision. You first need to make that decision. I'm going to be happy no matter what. Happiness is not dependent on what's going on around us or what's happening to us. Happiness is dependent on us making the choice to be happy. Here's what I mean. Think of, oh God, I see this in executives all the time, where they've got great jobs, they've got fancy titles, they've got houses, cars, perfect wife, all the money they could ever need, and they're still not happy. Why? They've got everything going for them, and they're still not happy because they haven't made the choice to be happy. Part of this is gratitude. I think they actually talk about gratitude in a point or two, but they don't appreciate what they have. They haven't allowed themselves to really go there with their emotions. And so sure, allow yourself to be sad if you want, but I would actually say that even more important than allowing yourself to be sad is allowing yourself to be happy. Is looking for all the good you've got going for you, all the resources you have, all the people who love you, all the things you're good at, even just like the really simple things that you really enjoy about life, and saying, you know what, I've got it pretty good. I'm going to be happy no matter what. It doesn't matter what the boss says or what the coworkers say, or if that guy down the hall does something weird. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be happy no matter what. Number 17, get a therapist if you're able to do it. Now, I'm a little bit biased here. Listen, I'm not a clinician. I'm not a counselor. I'm a coach. I do a lot of coaching. I think everyone should have a coach, or, a therapist if that's your thing. The difference between, and I'm about to make a gross generalization about therapists. This is not true of all therapists. I'm making a generalization. The thing about it is, though, is I prefer coaching to therapy, because therapy more or less is focused on the past, focused on resolving issues from your past. Coaching is about moving you forward. So it's two separate things. That's why I prefer coaching. I think we should always be moving forward rather than continuing to dwell or pick apart or analyze things that have happened in our past. Don't get me wrong, that can be beneficial. There's a lot of reasons why you would want to do that. And a great therapist, in theory, is going to do both of those things. They're going to help you let go of the past, help you release whatever emotions you have about the past so that you can move forward, and help you create plans to do that as well. But I think you should do both. But listen, man, if you got a therapist you trust that makes you feel good, it's all about how you feel at the end of the day. So I can definitely see the benefit of that. 18, write in a gratitude journal. We just talked about this. Practicing gratitude is so essential for a full and happy life. Instead of allowing your brain to go to a place of anxiety and stress, arm yourself with grateful thoughts. Writing them down helps. If you wake up and focus on that which you're grateful for, your brain becomes better at finding even more gratitude. Yes, 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 yes. Gratitude is a game changer. I like doing gratitude journals, and this is not journaling as in like documenting your sleep, but what I mean by gratitude journal is write down at the end of the day, write down 3 things that went really well that day. It's super quick. It just takes a second to do it. Write down 3 things that you're really excited about that day. Do this every single day. Your brain is going to start looking for things to be grateful for. And oftentimes, if we're on default, if we're not doing stuff like this, our brain doesn't always go to the good. Oftentimes, it goes to the bad. It goes to the things that aren't working out the way we want it to. We want to prevent that and try to diminish the role of those things by instead focusing our energy and attention on the things that are going well. That's not to say you completely ignore things that are going badly. Obviously, you want to fix those things. But what if instead of focusing on this thing went really wrong and it really pisses me off or stresses me out or whatever, what if instead you said, you know what, this isn't going the way I want it to, but here's an opportunity I have to fix it, here's an opportunity, here's another idea I have, and I'm really grateful for all those ideas. Number 19, turn your phone off. It's been shown in too many studies that too much tech time can negatively impact mental health, become less available via text and email so you don't feel emotionally tethered to your phone, and spend more time off your devices. Opt for screen-free activities, especially at night, to help you disconnect from social media. While it's unclear if sedentary screen time is a marker or risk factor for depression, it's actually not unclear at all. I'll talk about that in a sec. There appears to be a consistent association of increased screen time in patients with depression and anxiety. So they have actually done studies, and they've done this on teenagers, where teenagers who, they have their phone and at school like all the time, they're kind of like keeping their heads down and texting on their phone, and they're kind of hunched over like this. They've actually found that leads to more depression. Is to be constantly on your phone texting away. Part of it is like your posture. Your posture matters. Like if you want to be depressed, spend all day like this. Spend all day kind of like concave and curled up and really small. If you want to feel good, shoulders back. Jordan Peterson talks about this actually. It's one of his 12 rules for life. Stand with your shoulders back. It's because your body language matters, and your body language, your body follows your mind follows your body. Your mind will follow what your body's doing. So if you want to feel good, act like you feel good. People who walk around all day like this don't feel good, and that's part of what we're doing when we're keeping our phone on all day. The other thing, though, and I actually learned this, I interviewed the CEO from Hinge, which is like a dating app that like Pete Buttigieg met his husband on, and he actually took email off his phone entirely, and he came up with a system with his employees where if there's a real emergency, if there's a legit emergency, they text him. They do not email him. First of all, I don't know why people would be emailing in the sake of emergency anyway, but he actually came up with a system to say, I'm not having email on my phone, I'm having very little social media on my phone, it doesn't benefit me, and if you need something, text me, that way I know it's important. If it can wait, send me an email, I'll get to it when I get back to my desk. So really lovely thing to do, and he actually encourages people in his organization to do the same. I know he's getting a little group together that's trying this out and piloting it, and hopefully that can spread across the organization. All right, number 20, our last one. Reduce food shame and stress through mindful eating. When we feel nervous, scared, anxious, or even unsure of what to eat or how much, our stress hormones begin to fire. Our sympathetic nervous system becomes activated, and we're no longer making empowered decisions. I mean, I don't know, I think again, this has to do with perception. It's kind of like giving up that negative habit. If you don't think something can hurt you, then it's not going to cause you stress. If you don't think that eating something is bad, then it's not going to cause you stress. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying just eat chocolate all day or pizza or whatever your food of choice is and call it a day. I'm not arguing that. But I am saying that if you want to eat a cookie, man, You love the hell out of eating that cookie. You enjoy every single moment of eating that cookie. You be grateful for that cookie coming into your life. Don't allow food to cause you stress. The same thing with like a really good hamburger or a steak or whatever. I had buffalo cauliflower wings for lunch right before I did this video. Like, I mean, I enjoy buffalo cauliflower wings are actually pretty healthy, so I guess that might not be good on the list. But, you know, I mean, I enjoy the hell out of that stuff. And so I think this has to do with you really allowing yourself to partake in these things. Who cares what other people think? It doesn't matter. All right, so that's our list. I think the biggest thing that is missing from this list for me is this idea that, you know, no one said anything about just making the choice to be happy. We already touched on this, but making the choice to be happy is a really profound thing to do. And it is actually, if you want to be more happy in 2020, that is the only thing you need to do. Do the rest of this stuff. If you want to prove to yourself that you deserve to be happy, then fine. Do the rest of this stuff. Pick out the things that work best for you. But you don't need to do anything to be happy. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to prove yourself. You deserve to be happy as part of your birthright. It's just by virtue of being you and being here. Listen, there are the odds against you right now, the unique person that you are, the odds of you even being here are so astronomically large, right? It is insane that any of us are here right now in the unique form that we take. You don't need to do anything extra to deserve to have a good experience. So if I could give you my one big tip for 2020, if you want to be happier, say to hell with it. I don't care what anyone else says. I don't care what anyone else does. I don't care what happens to me. No matter what life throws at me, I'm going to choose to be happy. And then trust your instinct, act like you're that person, and your brain is going to catch up. If you commit to it, you make that choice, and then you act as though it's true, your brain's going to catch up, and you'll be a happier person.